Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Macomb High School as it's round 2 for the IHSA Class 4A playoffs. I'm Dwayne Hulett. Chris Frankhauser is alongside today, and I'm super glad we have a trailer.
You and me both.
Holy smokes.
I was hoping you were set up in here before I got here, and yeah, this would be brutal. I don't know that you could set anything up out here in this wind outside.
Well, you can't see it really behind us because of the angle is a little off, but the ticket table that was set up earlier blew away. It is windy out here, folks, and it is not going to be conducive for passing. It's supposed to die down around 4 o'clock to 15 or 20 miles per hour instead of 25 to 30.
Well, right. We were talking before we went on. Real feels 36 right now. Wind gust, steady gust at 26, hot gusting over 40 at times.
Yeah, so we're in the TSSR Game Time live trailer, just kind of at the back. As you can see, we got the back door open, so it's not as warm as it was when we set everything up with the doors closed, but it's cool. The kids are out practicing in their walkthrough this morning for Macomb High in shorts and helmets, and I was thinking to myself, man, that's craziness. But at the same time, It was warmer this morning. The wind was blowing hard, but it was warmer this morning. It's considerably cooled.
The temperature has dropped significantly since this morning. And coming in, we were talking road signs blown completely over between here and Bushnell. And, yeah, it's bundle up if you're coming out here to Macomb High, and hopefully you are, and you're going to get to see a great football game this afternoon.
So we got the pregame show started here. We've got on the show today, Max Krebs is going to come talk to us. That's a blast from the past.
Baseball and football.
Reed Kelso is going to come talk to us. There's another blast from the past. Justice Keene's going to be on in a couple minutes.
Okay.
Of course, Chris is here. And then Tegan Perry, who took a week off last week, is back this week as well. So we got a good group of guests again this week, and excited to look at a game, Chris, that you and I can talk about as we close the show a little more. But a rematch, and this has become a redemption tour for the Bombers almost. I mean,
yeah,
this will be team number 4 for the Bombers that they lost to last year, and this was the last one they lost to last year in the playoffs at Murphysboro. So they're going to try to return the favor. Of course, this is round 2 instead of round 1.
Yeah, and and the locations have changed. That game at Murphysboro last year, of course, here today. The passing game, is going to be affected on both sides of the football for both teams today. And, we'll talk, as you said, more, but I think you're going to see a heavy dose of number 13 for Macomb today.
Yeah, and you might see some Denzel Cochran mixed in there as well. You'll probably see the shovel pass to Jaden Jones a little bit more today. But I think you're still going to be able – the arm strength is the key. Murphysboro doesn't look to throw as much as the Bombers. I think Jack Duncan's got arm strength to throw maybe some stuff to the flat. He can throw, obviously, downfield. The problem is he's got to make the adjustments that are correct right when it is time to make those adjustments, because the ball, we talked about the way the wind's blowing right now, if you're kicking what will be left to right on your TV screen when we're broadcasting, which is south to north, the ball might go out of the halfway to Good Hope.
It might. And that's, I think, what passing game you're going to see until that wind dies down, as you said, about 4 o'clock. I think you're probably not going to see as much from the teams going south to north here today, because that wind, my thing is with the passing game, and especially this isn't a consistent wind that you can adjust to. It goes 20, 25 miles an hour. Then it's gusting up over 40 at times. You really would hate to put a ball in the air and unfortunately get one of those gusts that catches it and either holds it down or sends it sailing way past your intended receiver.
When we were at Illini West, we saw some balls hang up throwing south that night as well. It didn't affect Jack Duncan as much because he throws a lower, tighter spiral ball. But the wind is such a gusting ball. Now, you could throw deep going north, I think, because if you're going to do anything, you're going to overthrow people probably.
Right.
So I don't – it's hard to say. I think there'll be a lot of stuff in the flat, maybe some short crossing pattern kind of stuff that we haven't seen a lot out of the Bombers. So we'll see if that works. And the other thing is are we going to see – what are we going to see out of Murphysboro? We can talk about that a little bit later, but they are going to look to feed one guy.
Right.
For the most part.
Right.
Averages 164 yards a game or something like that. So we'll talk about that as we go along here today, I'm sure. But they're looking at their stats at least, they are built for a weather game like this. And so the Bombers, the thing that everybody talks about with the Bombers is the passing game. And I think we've established, though, Chris, that they're so much more than that.
Well, that's it. And I think that's a good thing with Macomb is, they're definitely not a one-dimensional squad. They like to pass the ball, obviously, more. But as we saw late, especially in that game last week with Quincy Notre Dame, they're not afraid to, grind out 10, 15, 12, 14 play drive and eat up some time on the clock as they did with, and it was a heavy dose of Max Reiner last week in the second half.
We'll talk about today's game, going forward, but you look back at last week's game, and the Bombers did everything that the Bombers wanted to do last week. And do you feel like maybe because they've proved something? I think they answered a lot of questions last week. Do you think because it's Murphysboro, maybe they still have the chip on the shoulder that they went into last week? Because I think they need to play with that chip on the shoulder.
Yeah, I think they do as well. And like I said, I think that they answered some of the questions. Could they lean a little heavier on the run game as they did last week? And nothing wrong with the passing game, but we saw some misses. I mean, it could have been, Jack overthrew a couple of guys. We didn't see maybe quite the efficiency to the passing game as you've seen on the regular season games for Macomb, but still a good job of that, I thought, last week. But I think they did answer some questions. The questions they hadn't played anybody. Well, you beat Quincy Notre Dame last week, and you showed that you can, as I said, eat up 7, 8, 9 minutes on the clock in a game with running the football.
So can you play 4 quarters? Yes.
Yeah.
Can you run the football? Yes. Can you handle adversity? Yes. I think they might bring a little better running team to the field today in Murphysboro as a whole. So we'll see what that does for the Bombers. But, it's going to be a fun day. I'm guessing last week the weather was like perfect, right?
Yeah, it was.
And the crowd was great. Now the question is, does the crowd remain huge today with the weather being not so nice? It is an afternoon game. Western's playing at home today. There's a lot of things. Does the city and the community of Macomb come out and support the Bombers on a not so nice day when there's other things going on?
I think they will. There's a buzz around this Macomb team here in Macomb that hasn't been seen in several years. And I think you're going to see a similar crowd to last week, and hopefully maybe a little more and a little more vocal.
Yeah, and that the kids will be here.
Yep.
That's the amazing thing about this school is the kids come out.
Yeah.
They support, whether they're playing another sport or don't play any sports. They get here, they support the teams, and so the kids will be loud tonight. So that'll be fantastic.
Yeah,
and we'll be having a lot of screaming and yelling, I would imagine, as we go along here. So we're going to take our first break on the day. We'll come back. Justice Keene from Bomber Sportsnet is going to come and talk to us for a few minutes, and then we will be back with Tegan Perry after that. And Chris will join me again as we close out the show a little bit later. He might hop in a time or two in between then.
Sounds good.
We'll take our first break. We'll be back here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH, in just a couple minutes.
I went through MDH when we were trying to get pregnant. We were struggling the first year, and then when we got pregnant, I stayed at MDH and through labor and now for pediatrics. My experience was nothing short of phenomenal. I was met with amazing staff members who helped me through concerns that I had when she was first born, helping me learn how to be a new mom. It was really reassuring and comforting knowing that I had so much support and kindness around me. My entire pregnancy at MDH was amazing.
At Western Illinois University, leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there's limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
Dry needling is where you insert a filiform needle into a muscle, a tendon, a ligament, sometimes a bone, and it promotes blood flow and circulation so that it heals that particular painful area.
And welcome back to the TSSR Game Time Live presented by MDH pregame show from Bomber Sportnet. Justice Keene is on, and Justice, it's a smidge different weather-wise than it was last Saturday.
It is. Last Saturday we were lucky enough to get the little bit of a late fall weather, golf weather basically is what I refer to it as.
And you didn't even golf,
I didn't, but this is a better place to be though. But we'll take November football, but yeah, it is a little chilly out today.
Well, it's November baseball time too, I guess.
Yes.
But since the Cubs and the Cardinals aren't in it,
Doesn't matter.
Nobody cares around here, I don't think.
Nope.
So we're talking Bomber sports and Bomber football to be exact. You did the Murphysboro game last year. You saw how it kind of snowballed on the Bombers and then got out of hand. A lot of the same players, but a different team, I feel like, with the Bombers this year.
It is, and I think both sides, Murphysboro too, I think these are two teams that are a little bit more experienced now. I think they put in the work in the offseason, and, the Bombers, I mean, you've seen the growth in Jack Duncan at quarterback. You've seen the growth in Ethan Ladd. Max Reiner's healthy this year. And, I think that the Bombers, how often can you say in the playoffs you get a chance to have a rematch with a team that, you lost to the year before? So I think it'll be a really good matchup today, and I think the Bombers are hungry to get the win.
The thing that concerns me for a Bombers fan is the wind, right?
Yes.
The passing game. But the only good thing is Duncan is a legitimate hard-throwing quarterback, and he throws a tight spiral most of the time. So I think he can still throw the short passes even into the wind.
I think he can too, and I think they're just going to have to work with, like you said, the short passes. The long ball is not going to work today. Probably not the best. And then, we might even have to rely on the running game too. I think, we've seen that, the gains from Max Reiner on offense as well. But small passes, you can't throw the long ball today because, 20-mile-an-hour wind gusts behind us, not going to be in our favor.
The redemption tour is complete today.
Yep.
One way or another, right? It's complete today. The Bombers lost 4 times last year. They've won the first 3 games that they lost last year, and this is the game that ended their season last year.
It is.
I feel like that this has kept the chip on the shoulder. Last week they answered so many questions about what people thought, but now maybe they answered those questions, but they have different things to prove now.
It is, and I think the Bombers can come into this game with. You can look at it 2 ways. We could think about the weather and let that get in our mind, and let us think about Murphysboro again. But they're not going to have that mindset. They're going to come in with the mindset of this is our time, and it's our chance to reach a quarterfinal game, and it's our chance to redeem ourselves after a loss we had last year, 5.5 hours from here. That was a long bus ride back for them. And, now Murphysboro has to make that drive. They didn't spend the night. So, you gotta kind of keep your mindset there and chance to get a redemption win.
I kind of feel like we're going to blow away.
Yeah, I know. The trailer's shaking a little bit. It is a little warmer in here, though.
Yeah, getting out of the wind is a nice thing, right?
It's nice to get out of the wind.
I thought a whole lot today about what I was wanting to do, whether I was going to try to turn a trailer sideways and be outside, and I finally just decided that it didn't make any sense to be outside.
The wind gusts are blowing today, and let's see, 45, but it feels like 37.
Yeah, so it's chilly. The nice thing about our jobs,
we can sit in the booth.
We can set the booth out of the wind. John Burton's going to be on the upstairs camera tonight, and then we got a sideline camera. Hopefully it'll work better than it did last week. We had some problems with it last week. It used a new transmitter. It didn't work very good, but we got the old one, the old standby, the ready one out, and it should be fine tonight. My brother's going to be on that, so it's not a good day to be outside.
It's not, but hopefully we get a good big crowd out here for playoffs. Get your hot chocolate, make your get your coffee, hot chocolate, whatever, hand warmers, whatever you need to, because you're going to need the blankets and all that for this one. But
your deer hunting friends are your best friends.
That's
right.
That's right. Give them a call.
Warmers. That's right.
Yep.
So this wind, I think, if it plays into anybody's favor, it plays into Murphysboro's favor, because they like to run the ball. They have a very good running back.
They do. They have a really good running back in Devon Clemens, and we saw him last year. and he's definitely body types change. He's grown into his role more, and he's done a phenomenal job for them. But definitely not a team you're going to see pass the ball like Macomb does. They're, like you said, they're definitely a running team, and they're going to rely on that today.
Clemens is averaging, I think last looked about 160 yards a game, 164 or something like that, and that's a lot of yards.
It is.
I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing, but it was kind of funny as I looked back through the schedule for Murphysboro, the Red Devils. It's not a whole lot different than Macomb's schedule. They have a whole bunch of teams outside of the 3 teams that made the playoff. Everybody else on their schedule is 3-6 or worse.
Yeah, and I think that, really on paper, these two teams match up really, really well.
Yes.
And you may look at they're from all the way they're from all the way down by Carbondale, but really when you're looking at these two matchups on paper, these teams, this is going to be a really good matchup.
Yeah, and then the weather might make it a better matchup.
Yeah.
In all honesty, because it keeps the Bombers from using that extra little advantage that they might have had over Murphysboro, right? I'm not saying they aren't going to throw, folks. The Bombers are still going to throw. They just can't throw down the field as effectively as they could on a normal day. So it might make it an even better game just because of that. But the key is can Reiner and maybe Denzel Cochran might become more of an active role in this game today, just as a thunder and lightning kind of deal, rather than using the passing game as the lightning. They might have to use Denzel Cochran and the shovel pass to Jaden Jones as the lightning.
Yeah, those are two kids that last week it was Drew Watson stepping up. He's a freshman, but now we look to kind of the older kids to step into their role, and Denzel Cochran and Jaden Jones, 2 players that have done a great job this year. But talk about a time to peak. Today's the day to do it.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do, right?
Yep.
I mean, if you're an upperclassman and you're playing in a second-round playoff game, this is when you want to be able to do that. And Denzel Cochran's got the speed to do just that. And this wind is the kind of day that he can be really effective.
He can be, and he's one of those quiet players that's not going to make a bunch of noise, but when he comes in, he knows what he has to do, does his job, and he gets the job done. And another thing we have to watch out for today is JT Jeter going to be able to play?
Right, and that's the wind may take him out of the game a little bit.
It might.
I mean, it may
absolutely
take the necessity or need or want for him in the game, which in the long run might help the Bombers a little bit today. Maybe you don't look to go downfield as much if JT can't play the entire time.
Yeah, you look for like we said, small gains end up being the ones that matter the most. In my opinion, because you don't always have to rely on that long ball way down the field, because this game is the Bombers are going to have to be patient. They're not going to be able to. I mean, maybe they are, but you're not going to be able to get down the field in 30 seconds, and you got to be patient, work with the weather, and do your job. And I think if they do that, it'll be a victorious.
Well, what do you think? There's more things going on today. The game's earlier. There's more stuff going on. The Leathernecks are in town playing today. Yep. Obviously, Macomb supports the Bombers in a huge way. The place was packed last week.
Yeah.
Weather's so much different. There's so many things going on. Games earlier. What's your take on what this crowd is going to look like today?
I think we'll get a good crowd. I think, the Western game, a lot of people like to tailgate before that. And, Paul Bubb, athletic director at Western, they've done a nice job of doing the tailgate again this year and getting all their supporters back. But, I think we'll see a lot of, supporters come out. It'll be interesting to see, with the wind and, how do people want to deal with that. But, I think we'll see plenty of orange and black today. And I know, for the fans that don't go out and that are at Hanson Field supporting on Myers Hendrickson and the Leathernecks, we know that the community's got our back there. And but I think we'll see a good crowd today.
I think that we'll see a lot of purple and gold in the crowd.
I agree.
I think there'll be a lot of
over.
Yeah, they'll come because this game starts at 3.
Yep.
They'll watch the first half or first 3 quarters or whatever might happen at Western. And then they'll come here.
Flock over, yeah.
Right. I think there'll be a lot of purple and gold in the stands tonight, which is maybe even better, right? Mm-hmm. Because that shows that you're supporting all the available things to support in today, And I think that's one of the cool things that Macomb has that maybe as sports fans we don't take enough of advantage of, right? And we don't take enough advantage of what Western offers. And then today being able to do two things: a second-round playoff game and a Division I football game in the same town on the same day, in a town this size. Mm-hmm. Not very many towns this size can do that.
No, and that's one of the special things about Macomb. We love our schools, and we love that you get to go out in the morning, get to support the Leathernecks, and then you get to come out here and cheer on the Bombers. I mean, not very often can you say you're playing football in November,
right? Let
alone a few weeks before Thanksgiving, and hopefully that we get some purple and gold in the crowd today. We get some orange and black, and it might confuse the Murphysboro sideline when they start seeing purple and gold in the crowd, but no, that'll be a cool sight to see.
So what's your take on today? What was your take midweek on today? And then now that you see what the weather is, does it change what your take was on the game?
Well, midweek, we had that, was it Wednesday, where it was just like 75 and just perfect? Yeah. Midweek, I think we should have played Wednesday.
You're not old enough to remember Wednesday night playoff games, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, but they used to do that. Not in the second round, but the first round was always on Wednesdays.
But yeah, I think the weather, might play a little bit of a factor, but it's just kids playing football, and maybe they'll think about the weather, maybe they won't. But I think at the end of the day, they're here to play IHSA playoff football, and I think it'll be a really good game.
It's funny you say that because I played junior high basketball, and I played sports, and I played sports in college. I didn't play for the college, but we always played pickup games of whatever. Mm-hmm. We'd go play in the snow, and it'd be a foot deep snow, and you're diving, your face is covered in snow, and you don't even feel the cold until you stop.
That's right.
And I'm sure golfing's the same way for you. You don't. The wind you notice because it pertains to what you're doing, but when you're zoned in, right, when you're focused on what you're doing, you don't notice that it's cold. You don't notice that you're battling this or that. You're so concerned on what you're doing, you don't notice that stuff until you stop. Mm-hmm. And I think that these kids, the ball's going to be affected by the wind, but I don't think the feeling is going to be affected by the wind.
No, and I think you're exactly right there. When you're locked in, you're just zoned in on the game, and I coaches wearing shorts. It's kind of the same way.
Right.
Adrenaline's pumping, and I think that it'll be the same way. You're thinking and you're focused on the game, and not necessarily the wind, and how it's cloudy, and we're not going to see too much sun today. I don't think either.
Well, Shelby Burgett wore shorts all the time on the sidelines, right?
The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, I tried to get him to come be on the show today, but he was busy, couldn't make it. Maybe if the Bombers can win again, we can get him on next week or something. But he always wore shorts, right? That was that was his staple. Mm-hmm. That's what he did, and then it caught attention. But he was even the same way. He didn't get cold when the game was going on. He might.
Shelby's indestructible.
he might have gotten cold otherwise, but before or after. But once the game goes on, you kind of lose that, And even when I used to take pictures all the time, and I took pictures when it was snowing and raining and sleeting and everything else. And when the game's going on and the actual play's going, you don't really notice it. It's in between, So I think the kids are going to be good. The wind will play a factor, but are you giving a score today?
I'm going to go 24-16 us.
24-16. I said 7, so you went 8.
Yeah. I maybe it won't be that high scoring, but I think that, like we said, if you're, adrenaline's pumping, and, I think we're going to see a decent scoring game.
Well, both teams have running backs that can break things.
Yes.
And Jaden Jones can break stuff with the shovel pass. Both teams have players that can make things happen. So you might see some long 15-play drives, and you might see some 2-play drives. Mm-hmm. We saw that last week against QD, right? So I think that you're exactly right. 24-18 or 24-16 is probably not a stretch.
Yeah.
Probably ain't going to be very many field goals today, though.
No, and, I think, that's another thing that'll be interesting to see. Murphysboro, they're a kicking team. They were a kicking team last year. Do you go for 2 now this week with the wind? And, how does that play a factor in your decision-making? But, I don't think we'll see too many kicks today.
Well, if you got a kicker and you're kicking north,
it'll be okay.
You might
be all right.
You might try a 45-yarder today if he's a really accurate kicker, because the wind's going to help you 5 or 10 yards if it keeps blowing like this. So, well, Justice, I greatly appreciate you stopping by and talking to us again. We will have to find out if you're 24-16 is correct.
I got a question before I leave. Does he have the Hawkeye Cup this week?
He does, but at least he didn't leave it on the table.
He didn't leave it on the table. The table's good.
So
there's the bus rolling up behind us.
Yeah, they're I kind of thought they'd be here a little earlier.
Yeah, 1:25 for 3 p.m. kickoff, but sure enough, the Red Devils are here, which means it's getting closer to game time.
It's getting close to game time. Justice, thank you much, sir.
Hey, thank you, sir.
Have a good game tonight.
Yep.
We'll be back on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH, in just a couple minutes.
I chose the MDH OBGYN group because I've heard wonderful things about Dr. Smith. And upon entering the office, I really got along with everybody and got a warm feeling. The staff is warm and inviting and welcoming. It's a small community, so it's a really nice hospital to have here in the rural area. I continue to choose MDH because of the relationships I have. I really enjoy everybody here.
MTC Communications is building a high-speed fiber network in our community, and we're putting priority on the areas with the greatest interest. That means we need your input to let us know you want us to build fiber in your area first. Experience the speed and convenience of fiber internet by visiting our special website and registering. Let us know you want fiber internet today, and make your voice heard.
And welcome back to TSSR Game Time Live's pregame coverage of the Class 4A IHSA playoffs, live from Macomb High School. It's Murphysboro and the Macomb High Bombers, and Tegan Perry is alongside now. And Tegan, I'll tell you what, it's good to have you back. You took a week off. I know you didn't want to miss last week, but you had some prior commitments and things you needed to do, so we can appreciate that. But this is a game that you're pretty interested in, I think.
Oh, 100%. This is the game that Macomb played last year, except we were in their yard. But now, tables are turned. They came to our yard. We're about to show them what Macomb does.
Well, it's you think back to last year's game. We talked a little bit about this when we meet every Friday for lunch at Los Alamos, and you talked a little bit about it yesterday, that it was close, and then all of a sudden it wasn't.
Yeah. It was a one-score game at halftime, 14-21. They go down, receive the ball. They were able to get a drive down to score a touchdown. Then Macomb receives the ball. They go out to Macomb gets about around to the 20. Ball gets fumbled. They pick up. 2 plays later, they score. Game just went out of reach right there. You went from a one-score game to a 3-4 score game in a matter of around 2-3 minutes.
That's the way the Bombers have done to a lot of teams this year, right? They've used that quick strike offense to blow some games open early, and then the starters didn't play the second half. Probably going to be a little different today with the win, though.
100%, though. I will say that nothing will change their game plan, whether it's the win, whether it's the other team. They will always stick to what they think will work best against their opponent, and in this case, they're probably going to expect a lot of carries. However, I heard you guys say that they might not take a couple shots downfield. I think they have a lot of faith in Jack that, they're not going to do a lot, but they might do 1 or 2 to catch Murphysboro off their toes.
I would agree with that. I think you're still going to see some throws down the field, especially when you're going north or south to north, right? And you're playing, which will be left to right on the TV screen a little bit later. Because if you throw and the ball carries, it'll carry past. Is that Max Krebs behind us? Is that Max back there? Max is our next guest. We'll get him on here in just a few minutes. But Tegan, it's the ball will carry. You want to let him in the side so he can get in out of the wind. So if you're just tuning in, folks, we're in our trailer, the TSSR Game Time Live trailer, and we have the stuff set up at the back, so that's the reason why the back door is open. We're letting Max get inside where it's a little bit less windy. I don't know if it's really any warmer or not, but it's a whole lot less windy than it is outside. And so we're happy to have the trailer today. But back to what we're talking about, if you throw deep, you can overthrow people probably. Where the problem is going to be is going right to left on the TV screen, which will be thrown into the wind.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what, the wind will always be a factor in the game. But like you said, especially with 25, 30 miles per hour wind, it's going to affect it a lot. But they still might try a little bit more screens going into this game because they've worked that a lot into the offense going on later into the year, as we've seen like the little short Jaden Jones catch and then just a little bit off to the side. But they might implement the passing game a little bit more.
As a former Hog lineman on the offensive, defensive side, this is the kind of weather you just long for, right?
For some, yes. For others, no. But for me, I really did enjoy these games. However, against Murphysboro, we had the same type of weather last game except without the wind. It's once the hits get harder, you start feeling them third, fourth quarter. The Hogs are going to be kind of drained around that time, so it's going to be an endurance test.
The slaps hurt more when it's cold out, I suppose, don't they?
Yep, they do. However, something from last game to note that Murphysboro, their offensive linemen, they got two things. They can block really well for the run game, but whenever they're passing, it's not normally the greatest. They'll pass occasionally, but especially in this game, they're probably going to run a lot more. So what you need to do is just you got to base up against them and then stick into your gap. And once you do, and once they start noticing that, they'll start cutting a lot more. I expect them to cut a lot this game, not on just Macomb side, but on Murphysboro as well.
So they've got a running back averaging 160 yards a game. You as a defensive lineman go into a game with somebody like that. What's your thought process with that kind of scenario?
To him, you should think of him as a threat, but you should think of him as a threat you can defeat. The easiest thing you can do on that defensive line is stay in your gap. If you can do that, let everyone else do all the work. If he runs your way, wrap him up low, take him down.
Yeah, the key, sometimes the defensive lineman, I think, we can probably talk to Coach Krebs about this, but the defensive lineman, sometimes their job is as much to fill the gap or keep their blocker and stay in their spot, right, as it is to make a tackle or anything else.
Yeah, like they train you when you're starting off as a defensive lineman to stay in your gap. They don't want you running towards the running back because, let's be honest, you're a big man, you run a 5.5, and you're not going to outrun someone that runs a 4.7, a 4.6. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, so stay in your lane, as they like to say. So, Tegan, what's your pick? Justice is 24-16 Macomb. What's your expectation on today's game?
I said something similar yesterday during our meeting, but with the wind going on right now, I think it might be 24-26 Macomb. I think there's going to be a lot of rushing touchdowns today. However, I do have something to note. I told you this earlier, but JT Jeter is active for today. He won't be playing a lot on defense, but he will get in on the offense.
That'll be key. That'll help the passing game for sure. So we'll see how things go. Well, Tegan, thank you for coming. We'll have you upstairs a little bit later. We'll take a break, and we'll be back with Coach Krebs in just a few minutes here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH.
Well, I've always had an interest in the medical field, and then growing up, I actually went through physical therapy myself for an injury, and that got me back to playing my sports and the activities that I loved. So seeing that firsthand, I got to see how much physical therapy could really benefit others.
I went through MDH when we were trying to get pregnant. We were struggling the first year, and then when we got pregnant, I stayed at MDH and through labor and now for pediatrics. My experience was nothing short of phenomenal. I was met with amazing staff members who helped me through concerns that I had when she was first born, helping me learn how to be a new mom. It was really reassuring and comforting knowing that I had so much support and kindness around me. My entire pregnancy at MDH was amazing.
At Western Illinois University, leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there's limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
And welcome back here to TSSR Game Time Live from Macomb High School, as we have a formal coach of everything, I think, or at least it seemed like everything. Football, baseball, all kinds of stuff. Max Krebs, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You've been around the Macomb gig for quite a while. You've seen a lot of stuff, and right before we came on, you mentioned the 2011 playoff game.
I did. That was my second year of being offensive coordinator, and in the first round in 2011, we went to Decatur St. Teresa and beat them, and then hosted a second round game here against Beardstown. And the conditions were almost exactly like this, and we were fortunate to win the coin toss. And by the time the first quarter was over with the wind at our back and Beardstown going into the wind, I think it was 21-0. And I recall even using a timeout as the seconds wound down in the first quarter just to make them punt into the wind one more time. You don't use timeouts in the first quarter often, but that was definitely a situation where we did.
As a coach, these conditions make you look at some things differently, I'm sure, right?
Oh, yeah. The obvious is, are you going to be able to pass into this? Can you pass when you're heading from the south to the north? Can you throw when you're heading from the north to the south? Those are probably things that the kids already have an idea, probably roaming around on the field earlier today if they're allowed to do that. I'm not sure the playoff rules, but I bet they have some ideas. You know, you might try to throw a little longer when you're heading with the wind at your back, maybe some shorter passes with the wind in your face.
Well, you're not coaching football anymore, but you still bleed some orange and black. Pretty cool to see the Bombers back in the second round of playoffs, isn't it?
It is. You know, it's been a while, but I think the name Macomb is synonymous with playoff football, and it's good to see Tanner have us back into the playoffs like this. And obviously he's got a good staff that he's compiled around him. And as I stand and watch from the sideline, it's impressive. I mean, obviously we've got weapons, but we've also got blue-collar guys in the line that are moving holes so that Reiner and the May kid can run as well. And when you're balanced like that, you know, they're pass heavy, but they also, if they wanted to run it 10 times in a row with Reiner, I think they could do that. So they're balanced and, you know, all around very skilled football team.
You look at the passing game, you talked about how skilled they are offensively throwing the football, and they are probably pass heavy a little bit. But coming into the playoffs, Duncan was completing at a 70% completion rate, like 72, I think, officially, something like that, wasn't he? Did you drop just before that, just below that, maybe? But at any rate, he was right around that 70 mark coming in. Last week he was only at 60%, so he was down last week a little bit. But I've covered football for a long time, and seeing a team be able to complete at that percentage with the number of balls they're throwing downfield is very unusual.
Well, you know, Jack throws a good ball. He throws a tight spiral. He has a knack of throwing it where his receivers are going to be as opposed to where they were. And those receivers, Allen and Jeter and Jones, as well as last week the freshman, the Watson boy, they've got good hands. They run precise patterns. It's like they've practiced. They look like a pro team sometimes. It's like they've practiced so much that Jack knows right where his receivers are going to be. And then I've seen some acrobatic catches from those kids. I was standing on the sidelines against Farmington, which was a home game. I attend the home games. I don't go out of town anymore to watch. But he made a catch over in this southwest corner that he juggled at once, went down to the ground, juggled it again, and still came up with the catch. But those are the type of hands that these fans are seeing from this team.
Well, you talked about the tight spiral from Duncan. If you're going to throw into the wind, that's the kind of ball you have to throw, right?
I believe so, or you're going to see it flutter.
Yeah, and if you get anything up in the air, it's probably going to flutter. He tends to keep the ball low. Even on the downfield passes, they don't get a lot of height on him. So if anybody's able to do that, today Duncan might have the shot, but I don't think going south, which would be right to left on the TV screen, I don't think you're going to look to throw the ball downfield too much probably.
I wouldn't think so unless you flat out. I think at this level of the playoffs in the second round, I think the defensive backs are going to be too good for you just to, in your mind, say, I'm just going to heave this up and see what happens into this wind. I don't think that would be a good strategy. But,
So as you look back on all the stuff you did here in Macomb, the baseball team and stuff. The programs seem to be back on the rise again a little bit here. Do you see that as well?
I do. I was fortunate to be the baseball coach for 20 years, and I've never felt like the baseball program has been down. There was a couple years after I coached where Coach Watson was the coach, but then when Brock Boehner took over, he's kept baseball at the top all of this time. It's great to see the softball team do what they did last year and have a lot of talent coming back, and the coaches spending time in the summer with those kids, getting extra innings, extra pitching, extra hitting is just going to make you better. And that's for all sports. I used to teach with Brianna Rexroth at Logan School, and she's got the bloodlines of the West Prairie program inside of her. And I think the common thread is that our coaches are not just coaches during the season, but outside of the season, they're willing to make a schedule and take the kids that want to play some extra and try to improve their skills. And the coaches are committing time for that, and it's showing in our wins and our losses.
Well, Southeastern has for years been a great volleyball program, and Swisegood was there for years in baseball. You know him well.
Oh, yes.
Or knew him well, I should say. Both of those schools, this one has become this way, is they're using locally homegrown kind of coaches to build a program. So, your baseball program, Boehner went through your baseball program. He's a local kid. He kept that program going, right? Rexroth didn't go to Macomb, but she's local. She knows Macomb, and people in Macomb know her, and she's building that program as a local person. Tanner Horrell now is here at the football team, and he's obviously grew up here, and he's grew up on the football team and with the football team. I think that is a very important part of this whole thing of making programs be sustainable.
And I think along with that, by being from the area, you're getting good community support because they know you. The old saying that it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. Well, these people that are becoming coaches and teachers in our school district, we're children here, and the community knows them. And I think Macomb is a caring community where we look after each other's kids still. It's not that true worldwide, obviously. But, I just think the community, the businesses, as a coach, if I needed to play summer ball games and I went to a business to ask for some funding to help us go to a camp or to help us pay for umpires, they were there and they were ready to step in and help.
Well, I've asked everybody who's been on what they think the score is going to be. I've got two 24-16s, so I'm not going to let you pick 24-16. But you can, if you want to, tell us what you think the score might be today.
Well, I don't know how I arrived at 23. I know Macomb goes for 2 points all the time, so I don't know how many touchdowns it will take without a field goal to get to 23 points. But I'm going to say Macomb 23 and 21 for Murphysboro.
Oh, that's a close one. A 2-point game, according to Coach Caps. Well, Coach, I appreciate you coming and talking to us, and you're welcome to come back on any one of these pregame shows that we do, and you should come do a baseball game with me this summer, this spring.
It's possible.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. It was good seeing you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH, in just a couple minutes.
I chose physical therapy because I knew I wanted to be in the healthcare field. I wanted to be able to help patients in some way related to more in depth. We get to know our patients, and that's really what kind of sets us apart.
At Western Illinois University, leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there is limitless potential. With campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a Leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
And welcome back to Macomb High School for IHSA Class 4A Round 2 playoffs. So this is the Sweet 16?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be Reed Kelso, the AD at Abington High School. Avon High School.
Avon, yeah.
You can tell I'm old because I still forget to add the Avon to it.
Well, I'm used to it now. So, but I remember when it was BPCA and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're not as old as me, but you've been around the area long enough to remember all that stuff.
Oh
right?
yeah.
So we talked about the 2011 team.
Yeah.
You remember that pretty well too.
I do. I was a volunteer on that team with Coach Krebs and Coach Sears and all them. Yeah, it was a good team.
What was how many carries did who have in that game?
I think that was when we had Chris Jackson. He was a senior. I think Decatur St. Teresa gave him the ball like 42 times for like 280 yards or something. We gave him the ball a lot.
Well, that's a workhorse. Reiner is he carried the ball 30 some times, I think.
33 last week.
Yes.
I mean, I would give it to him again 33, 35 times a day like today.
So, as you have spent time on the crow's nests and on the sidelines and stuff, games like this and through your years of being involved in coaching and stuff, what would this day do to you thinking wise of what you're planning on doing?
Well, if I had a back like Max, I'd try to run the ball. I think you're going to be able to throw the ball short. I think Jack throws a nice ball. He's got a good arm. And I think their defense is going to allow you to get some short passes. Some outs are going to be there. Some hitches are going to be there. I watched some film on them. They're athletic. But I think we can run the ball. I think UND's front seven was a little bit bigger, a little bit more talented maybe than these guys. They got some athletes, but I believe we can probably win at the point of attack.
This is a round 2 deal of something that don't happen for a lot of teams and hasn't happened for the Bombers since 2011.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're in the round of 16, you can't let that sway what you do, though, I don't think, right?
No, I mean, you got to come out and do what you do. Play your game. I mean, these guys have won 10 games already, so I wouldn't try to change anything different. The weather's going to affect it a little bit, but I have a feeling they did a walkthrough day, and Jack probably has a pretty good idea what he can throw and what he can't throw, and Tanner will adjust his play calls accordingly. I mean, I don't think they're going to script anything, but, coaches like to see what they're going to run formation-wise. They like to throw some motion, see what the defense is going to do. Then you kind of base it off that.
Well, you wear a lot of green and yellow now and stuff, but I'm sure somewhere in there the orange and black still bleeds, right?
Oh, yeah. I had to go buy an orange stocking cap yesterday. I was like, I should probably get one. All my stuff's green and yellow. So I do have the black. I have having A-Town stuff underneath, of course. But, yes, today I am a Bomber fan.
We talked about the coaches and stuff that's local. As I start mingling with more staff around the area and you hear about the staff, there's a lot of Macomb athletes that are coaching and athletic directing and all. I mean, the programs here have brought a lot of professional athletes, not athletes as in like to the NBA, but coaches and stuff like that. They've really groomed some really good kids.
Yeah, there's being an AD, I obviously know there's a couple of us out there as ADs. There's a lot of principals that have been through, a lot of teachers have been through, a lot of ADs. And I think some of that's probably a credit to the coaches. We had Coach Sears, Coach Royal, Coach Krebs, Coach Fosdick, Coach McCall, all those guys. Sean Taylor was here when I was here. Good coaches. You just want to, you enjoyed it, so you try to give back.
So what's it like? Like we'll be doing the Great Western Shootout.
Yep.
And Macomb is there at the Great Western Shootout. As an AD for Abington, is it fun for you to be able to bring Macomb to that?
Oh, yeah, it's great. I get to see them. I try to come to games. If Macomb's playing for football and we're off, I'll be at the Macomb game. And I try to come down to basketball games. And, it's great. They're not going to play us, so I can root for Macomb still. But, I get the boys and girls there. They're playing back-to-back, which is great for us, great for Macomb's fans. And we got a good lineup this year.
Well, we're going to have all of those games. Is there 8 of them? 7 of them?
There's 8 games. 7 boys, 1 girls. Bringing a lot of good. Southeastern's going to be here locally. Monmouth, Farmington, Knoxville. Fulton's coming down. Rock Ridge and Columbia are going to be there. Scales Mound, who was at state last year. Sarah Gorda-Bement's got a really good player back. It's going to be a really good overall shootout, I believe.
And the funny thing is we're here for football today, but the basketball starts Monday, right?
A week from Monday.
So girls start.
Yep,
this
they
Monday.
started practice this week. Next week they'll start practice. Then we start at the Ridgeview, Rovo, Williamsfield, that tournament, whole thing. The Cranberry Classic was used to be, and then boys start a week later at Orion. So yeah, basketball's picking up, but I'm sure Coach Anderson, knowing him, he's fine having the boys out here.
Coach
for
Anderson,
another week or so.
Coach Anderson was here last week. I think I talked to him on the way out last week, and he was at the. I think he was at the volleyball game.
Yes, he goes to all that. We both live in Roseville, and our sons are the same. So I see Coach Anderson. Yeah, I'm sure he'll be here supporting them. And I mean, as a basketball coach, you wanted to play football. They're still competing. Still, that's what you want as a school.
Yeah, he said to me. Actually, it was Thursday when I was here walking out of. He was walking with his class back to the school, and he said, I'll take not having my kids as long as they can keep playing football."
Yeah, absolutely. That's just the way it is. You want them competing. You want to see how far they can go.
So what is your take on today's game? We've got a 23-21 from Coach Krebs. Justice and Tegan both say 24-16.
I think it's going to be like 42-28, Macomb. I think
Whoa.
Macomb's going to be able to score.
Whoa.
Like, I think Ryder's going to have a big day. I think Max will be able to throw. Jack will be able to throw the ball. And these guys can run. They got some athletes. Number 4 is a good athlete. Their running back's really good.
Clemens is averaging 160 yards.
Is that back?
Yeah.
They have a receiver, number 4, that's athletic. So I think you're going to have to hit them. That's what I was telling. I texted Tanner a little bit this weekend. I was like, if I'm you, I'm hitting them. Like, that conference, I don't know if those guys want to be hit. So I would find a way to hit them.
Every chance you get.
I said every time one of those running back steps on the field, somebody should be looking to split them.
Yeah. Well, 42-28.
Now, it's just a football coach, but that's what I would be saying. See how they like being hit.
See how they like being hit. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, Reed, thank you for supporting TSSR Game Time Live so much.
Oh, yeah, you do a great job, man.
We appreciate you allowing us to be in at Abington, and we're enjoying it. Hopefully to expand on that a little bit more, and Spencer's doing a good job up there.
Yeah. Well, it's great for, how many fans are like my grandma can watch, or great-grandma in Arizona, or aunt in Alaska, so it's great for that.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things that we like about doing it. And seeing the live chat pop open. I haven't looked at the live chat. I don't know if anybody said anything or not. Ian Bensinger. Yeah, we're looking to the game too. So we've got 42-28, Reed Kelso, 24-16, Justice Keene and Tegan Perry, and 23-21 from Coach Krebs. Now's your chance, folks, in the live chat. Let us know what you think. And if you're anybody from Murphysboro is watching, hop in there. We're equal opportunity in the live chat.
Yeah.
Let us know who you think's going to win and what you think the score is going to be. I have some Chubby's gift certificates. It's a $25 gift certificate, I believe, from Chubby's.
There you go.
If somebody in the live chat nails it exactly, we'll be in touch, and we will send you a Chubby's gift certificate. That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Fair. That's absolutely fair.
That's absolute. Man, they're shooting all kinds of stuff off. Man,
Game's not
I'm
even started
a little jumpy. The fireworks are going to start in a little bit. Well, Reed, thank you very much for coming up and talking to us. I appreciate it. We'll be back here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH, live from Macomb High School. IHSA Class 4A playoffs is just over an hour away here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH.
At Western Illinois University, leathernecks don't just blend in. Our purple stands out. Our students are innovative, creative, and resilient. At WIU, there's limitless potential, with campuses in Macomb, the Quad Cities, and online. Visit wiu.edu/potential to become a leatherneck and get an education that stands out.
I went through MDH when we were trying to get pregnant. We were struggling the first year, and then when we got pregnant, I stayed at MDH and through labor and now for pediatrics. My experience was nothing short of phenomenal. I was met with amazing staff members who helped me through concerns that I had when she was first born, helping me learn how to be a new mom. It was really reassuring and comforting knowing that I had so much support and kindness around me. My entire pregnancy at MDH was amazing.
I couldn't ask for a better agent, for a better company in a disaster where you have no idea where to start.
I learned that there's not a given in life. It takes a team. There's people that are going to watch out for us and they care.
It's been pretty stressful. Once we saw Lori and got our plan, it's
Like a huge weight lifted.
And welcome back for the final time to Macomb High School. Well, final time for the pregame show. We've got a little thing of a football game to go yet to come here this afternoon, live from Macomb. The IHSA Class 4A playoffs. It's Murphysboro, the Red Devils,
There.
and the Bombers of Macomb High School set to do battle on a smidge of a windy day. Chad Sperry came up and talked to me a few minutes ago. He's got the drone, but it's a smidge windy. Hopefully the wind will die down so we can use the drone a little bit later this afternoon. But, Chris, the game has all the makings of what should be a great contest.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're going to see a lot of on the ground. I think Macomb will use the pass in some key spots, pick and choose. But like I said earlier here in the pregame, I think you're going to see a heavy dose of Max Reiner today from Macomb. But we saw that last week. I think we're going to see more of it this week, and maybe like I said, it may be some of the other. Got May. We saw him carry it a few times. I think you're going to see a lot out of the running game, but especially heavy Max Reiner today for the Bombers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much passing game there is.
Yeah, because I think we'll see maybe a couple of deep shots from Macomb, but it's going to be picking and choosing. Maybe you'll see that after the forecast of the wind's supposed to die down about 3:30, 4 o'clock. But I think you're going to see, like you said, a lot of the shovel pass, maybe some stuff out, 3, 4, 5 yard out in the flat type stuff for the Bombers today instead of trying to go for the home run.
The thing that I could see happening, especially when you're going left to right, is that you run the hitches, you run the flats, you run then the double move becomes huge because they're not going to expect the ball to go deep very often. I would expect the corners to be up today more than normal. And then that double move with a good pump fake could very well make it a much less risky throw to go downfield. Right. So we might see that, and I think we will see that as we go on through the day. And then if the wind dies down a little bit, like you said, obviously it'll probably open that up some more.
Yeah, I think so.
But we're a few minutes away from ending the show here. So we've got 42-28. 2 24-16s, and we've got a 23-21 broadcast or choice. What is your pick for the game?
I've been going back and forth. I could see this being a fairly close game, and I could see the Bombers winning it by a couple scores. I'm going to say 30-18.
30-18.
Bombers.
30-18 Bombers. Kaylee Gray says 60-14 Bombers. That might be a bit of a stretch. Alex says 35-24 Macomb. That's a doable one.
That's in the range I was thinking.
I think that the Macomb getting 35 might be a chore.
Yeah.
Just because of the wind today, but we'll see. So you're going to go 30-18.
32-18.
32-18.
32-18.
So 32-18. So that's a two score and a 2-point conversion.
Yep.
Advantage. Okay. I said 7 to start with, so I'm going to go 7, which is going to be hard today, but I'm going to go 28-27. 28-21, I mean.
28-21?
28-21.
All right.
That's what I'm going to say. 28-21. And we'll see how that works out. And, I think that it's going to be a great game. I think it will be a lot more running. Now, the question is, does the running make it a 14-7 game or a 21-14 game instead of a 42-28 game? Or do the two teams find ways to score a lot of points on the ground too?
Well, thinking back to last year when we did the 8-man state title game, we had a couple of teams scoring in the 50s, averaging 50 point. Ended up with a one-score 14-7 state championship for 8-man. I could see that going. I guess I could say Macomb. I could see, again, some ball control out of the Bombers, given the wind conditions some today. We saw that in the second half. I think at least early on. I think we're going to maybe see a little more ball control. But it's a game. You never know. Like you said last year, we had that with the two teams in the 8-man title scoring 50, 60 points a game, and you end up with a 14-7 score. So no one expected that. So I think you'll see some scoring, but I said last week, it's all figured out on there. We can guess till we're blue in the face, but it's going to be decided out there on the field.
Well, once again, I want to thank Chad Sperry and the WIU GIS Center for bringing the drone out today. Hopefully we get to fly
Fingers
it.
crossed.
Fingers crossed the wind dies down a little bit. And we're 1 hour from game time. That means the show is coming to a close. Thanks for joining us. I said 28-21, 32-18. And what else do we have before we shut this off? Do we have anybody else? 32-14. Kaylee changed her. And Nicole Martin says 28-21 Bombers. So Nicole's right there with me. Steve says that. Steve Martin watching apparently says 28-21. So he's right there with me.
Awesome.
I wonder if I said that before him or if he said that before me. Because I didn't see it. I just now saw it.
Who knows? We'll
I don't
have
know.
to see what time
he
the
just.
chat was.
I think he just copied off.
He probably
of me.
did.
He just copied off of me. He's a copier. Well, folks, thanks for joining us here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH. The football game starts in an hour. We'll be on about 2:45 with the pregame show. Be Chris Frankhauser, Tegan Perry, and myself up in the booth. Jason Hulett and John Burton on the cameras today. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again very soon here on TSSR Game Time Live, presented by MDH.